Just ready for me to start? Or? Welcome to the Cutting Room Podcast, brought to you by 7 Videos and me, Paul Sherwood. Each week we'll be cutting through the things that you want to know about video marketing. 7 Videos have been going for nearly 10 years now, and over that time we've had many achievements but also learnt a lot of things along the way. This podcast is an opportunity for us to share all that knowledge and all that experience with you. Each episode is going to focus on a different topic, concluding with our 7 top tips that you can start to put into action in your business. As with all podcasts out there, you know the drill. If you think it's any good, don't forget to give us a follow and keep up to date on when the next episode drops. Hello there, cutters, and welcome to episode 7 of The Cutting Room. I'm Paul Sherwood, one of the founders of 7 Videos, and this week, as like most weeks, I'm delighted to be joined by Joe, who's also one of our founders.
Hello, Paul. Hello, cutters.
Hello, Joe.
Glad to see that stuck.
And also delighted to be joined by Jake, who is our producer.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So this week's episode is all focused around how to generate, or how videos can help you promote your conference or event. Now, events is something that we as a business have done a lot of over the years. We've done numerous across the country, various overseas. So I'd like to think we've got some good stories to tell. Agreed?
Absolutely, yeah. Probably not all that's safe for podcast. That's the phrase we can use.
Which events were you at? I thought I've been to most of them with you.
Yeah.
The after events.
We'll leave that there. So yeah, just touching before we get into all the good stuff and sharing all our wisdom, thought it'd be good just to chat about maybe some of the events we've done as a business. I know we've got a couple of exciting events coming up that we're going to be shooting. So myself and Joe are going over to France end of April to shoot Data Cloud Global Congress, which we're very excited about. And then we've got myself, Jake, and Chris and Steve are going over to Washington to shoot ITW, which would be a really big job and really interesting job in May. So there are some exciting jobs we've got coming up, which I just wanted to share. But what I wanted to ask you guys is, what has been your favourite event that we've done as a business and why? Jake, looking at you.
I was hoping you were going to say Joe.
Mr. Event Man.
Yeah, well, obviously it was great to be able to shoot the WAN Summit in New York 2 years on the bounce. I think mainly due to the kind of the seniority of the people that were there and the fact that, all these people from all over the world had come to, Times Square in New York, and we were a part of that as a fairly young business at the time as well. It was just a really sort of great experience from a personal point of view, but also for us to learn on one of the biggest stages.
Oh, it was such an amazing city to be working in. I completely agree. It was us 3 that been there both times, and it was just an incredible experience. Just the buzz of the city to be involved there, and yeah, it was cool to be part of.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. I think that when you think back to when we did that, and that was kind of one of the first events, not the first event we'd done abroad, and like kind of all the nerves that go into it on that first one, and then looking back now with all the different ones we've done now, it feels more second nature to us, and it's kind of those early ones that have kind of put us in good stead.
Yeah,
to be invited to those places as well. Like, I mean, I've spoken to friends who've sort of said to me, like, why are they that bothered about you, particularly from sort of like Yorkshire, going all the way to America to do these events? And I kind of say, well, it's because we've got experience and we know what we're doing, and they know that they're going to get a great product out of us. So it is really sort of testament to all the great work we did up to that point.
Yeah, no, definitely. Joe, looking at you, favourite event and why?
Favourite event, you've already mentioned that we're going to do it again this year, but it was ITW, so International Telecoms Week. When we did it last time, it was in Atlanta. One of the reasons why it's my favourite is because it's the biggest one that I've done, so it was like over 7,000 attendees. This one spread across 2 hotels. It was a mammoth of a job, so much content to get done, but just at the end of each day, it was just quite rewarding to see what we had done. And not only that, they had quite cool kind of like after show sponsor party thing. So there's a Metallica tribute band at one.
Oh, yeah.
Which was really good, to be fair. And
it was a mad busy few days, that though, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah.
It was working insane hours, really. Which,
Yeah. It was.
But looking back, it was a cracking event and great to be involved with. Split across 2 hotels, so I think we averaged about 30,000 steps a day.
Yeah, I quickly regretted wearing my smart shoes in the first 2 days, and I realised, right, I'll put my trainers on. What's been yours?
For me, probably the first overseas event we did, Capacity Europe over in Paris, I think 2016, 2017. Yeah. Again, no real experience of any jobs overseas at that point. Packing the car up, driving down to Dover, ferry across, driving down through, having to navigate Paris in the little car with all the kit in was some experience.
That's one thing we learned, don't drive to every event.
Don't drive, basically, because it takes ages. But just the very nature of just being on the European scene, so to speak, was pretty cool.
7 had landed in Paris.
Yeah.
Made its impression.
No,
yeah,
they hadn't landed, they'd driven.
Yeah. Fair point. So that's just a few of the sort of events that we've been to. We've touched on some of the exciting stuff we've got going on, but I guess the core of what we're wanting to talk about today is all around how we can sort of leverage and share all that insight we've got from all these events that we've done, and how we can share that experience so that people watching and listening can get value from this. So as usual, we're going to sort of follow the sort of 7 key themes at the end of the podcast. So I guess to start us off, I think when we're looking at how your videos can help to promote your conference or event, what can you be doing pre-event to be generating that interest?
I think a great place to start is to produce sort of short little teasers to kind of just create that intrigue and excitement. And if it's been like a regular event year after year, it kind of puts it back on attendees' radars. If they've had a great time year after year, they're like, that's coming up, we need to start putting plans in place, just to kind of get yourself in the minds again of your attendees.
Yeah, and it's really important to, particularly in those kind of first instances like teaser videos, creating intrigue, but just really important just focusing on that. Save the day, not trying to overcommit and do too much in that first video. You kind of want to start off with that, and then you can kind of build on that as it gets closer and closer to the event.
It's just having that nice bit of branding, that, like you say, just creating that intrigue. Don't just put it all out there. Save the day, build intrigue, have some kind of point as to whether it's in the visuals or just in a little sort of phrase or something, but just create that mystery that are going to generate questions. Don't just tell them everything that's going to happen.
Drop little hints about the things that are maybe different this year. Like, obviously, most of the time people go bigger and better than last year. You kind of can drop in a little hint of what that might be, but not obviously revealing everything, so that people are starting to talk and get excited.
Yeah,
and still make sure that you can still get across the main reason why somebody would go to those events, so it kind of hits home with that target audience. Like I say, you don't want to give too much away, but it still needs to be able to connect with them.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's kind of the first instance, really, is that this is probably a couple of months out from the event, if not even beforehand, this is the day, this is a little bit about what it is, get excited, get it in your diary, we'll be in touch soon. And I guess kind of moving on from that, it's then how you go from that initial interest to building an audience of attendees and what you can be doing from a video perspective to do that.
Well, you've almost got a bit of a nurture sequence pre-event for various kind of reasons and objectives. So you're generating interest of people who've never been before, but also the people that have been years before. And I think a big objective at this point should be to start getting people signed up, register their interest, following social media accounts, so that you can then start to put out a bit more information and really sort of nurture people through that sequence of getting them to a confirmed attendee.
Yeah, and you really need to be getting across why people should come to this event. Why is it different to similar events? You've got to make that really clear and make it really obvious to the people, potentially coming as to why they should come here and not to the other one.
Yeah, it's about it's building that commitment now, isn't it? Because all events are driven by footfall and attendees. The only reason people sponsor them, the only reason why people attend them or exhibit at them is because there's going to be the right people in the right room. So you need to deliver the right content at that event to get the right people in the room. And to get those people in the room, I guess it's to also promote what's in store. So, things we've talked about is highlight reels from previous years, or maybe testimonial content from previous events attendees.
Absolutely, and it's to get people to attend these events, you've basically got to justify in their minds, taking a week out of the diary, any investment that they're going to have to make, travel expenses. They need to be confident that it's going to be worth it, and sharing highlight reels, testimonials, all this kind of stuff, it gives them a taster of what they can expect. So I think that's really important in making sure that you are getting kind of those high quality attendees.
It's focusing on that value that the event offers the attendees or exhibitors, and we touch on it later in terms of what content to get at the event. But this kind of feeds into next year's. So when you're at the event, you should hopefully have content, if you've done it right, of testimonials from last year's event where you can kind of focus on the value that they've got, so you can then push this year's event as well.
Yeah, and this can also apply to drumming up sponsorship as well. You're going to have to justify the event and show that it's of scale, it's of high quality attendees to get those kind of big sponsors to want to invest in your event.
Yeah, and sponsorship is a huge part of events. It's what funds a lot of them, and you can these days you see everything sponsored from the cloakroom to the drinks reception to the toilet to everything. There's anywhere they can put a logo, they do. But that's where they generate the bulk of the revenue.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think only by demonstrating that it is a high quality event are you going to do that. You're not going to be able to convince someone to part with thousands of pounds just by saying, oh yeah, it's a great event, we're at a nice hotel, quite a few people come. They want to see, they want to hear the value in that other people are getting from it.
Well, that's ultimately, any event has to add value. Like you say, if you're going to give up to, everyone's busy now, and one thing that's come out of the pandemic is people realise how precious time is, and a lot of people are not wasting time travelling, not anywhere near as much as they used to do. So overseas events, it has to be really, really compelling to get people to go away from the families for a few days and to give up that time and to spend the time catching up on emails and everything when they get back. There has to be that value at the event, firstly, and secondly, you have to be able to advertise that or get that across to the audience as well. Otherwise, they're not going to turn up.
Yeah, it's really, you do really need to be able to demonstrate that. And when we've done event videos ourselves, like at some of the overseas ones, and you're looking to find out what makes the event different, and sometimes like you've got loads of panel discussions going on, and you might think, oh, that's the reason why people go, but then when you actually get talking to people, quite often it's the networking that actually there aren't many other opportunities for people to network in this scenario. So if that is the case, you need to make sure that's front and center of all your kind of pre and kind of post promotion, that you're really focusing on those things that people care about, and that they can kind of make sure that is being demonstrated through everything that you're doing. So really understanding what it is that makes it unique and people go.
And that as well is something that quite often whenever I'm sort of working on a project, especially on a highlight reel for an event, is to really reinforce those key sort of stats and value points, i.e. sort of X amount of attendees, this many speakers, here's an example of the big companies that attend, really sort of figure out what are those things that are going to make other people realise that your event is the place to be. And it's important to do that year after year as well, because you can create sort of a reputation and a legacy by having regular sort of highlight reels from each year. People can see that it's building and more people are coming every year, and it just snowballs from there, I think.
Yeah, and it's really key to have the right people in your videos that are going to attract future attendees and things like that, rather than just getting, we've mentioned it on case studies in previous episodes, just getting somebody who's willing to do it. But actually you need the right calibre of person to attract the people that you need to come.
Yeah, definitely. So that's looking at what we can be doing to kind of sell the event and to get people in the room. Fast forward to how you can be then utilising video at the event. So what can we be doing to capture content when you're at the event?
Well, one of the first things you can look at is if you've got sort of presentations being done by sort of quite high profile speakers, it's worth capturing that content professionally and putting that out, whether that's as a sort of a bought package post event, or whether it's something that you send out to all the attendees as kind of like a thank you for attending. Here's kind of a recap of all the presentations, because as well, a lot of these events they have sessions that run parallel with each other, so not everyone's going to be able to attend all of them. So the fact that someone could then go online and sort of watch the ones that maybe they didn't get a chance to, it just kind of extends the life of the event after. So I think it's important to really make use of the speakers, especially if you're investing a lot of money in getting high profile speakers in.
Yeah, it keeps that momentum going, doesn't it? And I think it also gives you the opportunity to maybe sell that content post event as well, potentially.
Yeah, I think so. And so you've kind of got, like you say, you can offer it to the attendees for free if you like. You could also live stream some of the content, and whether you kind of potentially you could charge for that as well. You touched on kind of hybrid events now, and since the pandemic, that there are certain people that don't want to do the travel, and it's whether you can kind of look at making it more of a hybrid event, because you're always going to get the people who want to meet in person, the people that want to network and all that, but then there are people who are less likely to be like that and maybe more interested in the content. So is there a way you can monetize the sessions without having to get people there?
And that's the interesting thing with events as well, particularly pandemic, and how the impact the pandemic had on the events industry, which broadly speaking was negative, obviously, because people weren't meeting in person, and the people involved with the physical meeting, the events organisers in the main, the venues, that they were affected massively. But what a lot of people saw, and a lot of companies who we work with, actually the attendance that they got for events actually increased quite significantly. Yet they didn't make the revenue from it, because you couldn't charge the same amount of money than putting someone up in a hotel for a couple of days than what you do with them sat in the house engaging with it online for a couple of days. But I guess that at least demonstrates to you that there is that audience there that maybe don't want to travel but do still want that to consume that content.
And I do think on some events, this isn't for events that we film, but ones I've attended, where the money for the event is all generated by the exhibitors, not the attendees, and they have really valuable sessions and like panels, and all that content you can see for free after the event forever, which see as an attendee is brilliant. But actually, is there a way you can monetize that where it could be free for a certain period, and then after that you just charge a nominal fee, and then you can increase the revenue you can get from that content you've already paid for. You've already paid those people to do it. You can offer it for free to start with, and if people want to check back if it's that valuable, then there is a way of either charging for it or just getting more details and things like that. So there's a lot you can capture on the event itself to monetize. Also, other areas that you can kind of capture whilst you're there is like testimonials from the event, just making sure you're capturing enough of them on the day as well. You've got a big opportunity to build a big chunk of content from the event to kind of use you for throughout the year to promote next year. So it's really making the most of your time there and the company that you've got there filming.
It's also important to recognise as well that yes, you have a large group of people that have decided to attend the event physically, but you're also quite likely to have a bigger group of people that, for whatever reason, aren't at that point where they want to sort of invest in the whole sort of time out the diary, travel expenses to come to the event, but there may still be a level of intrigue there, and I think it's a really big opportunity to sort of share what's going on with people who aren't there, and that could well prompt them to be like, yes, we want to be there next year. So it's important to recognise those sort of secondary opportunities as well.
And there's a lot of things you can do now, which again, it's quite simple stuff for people working in events, but the online networking, there's the platforms where you can have breakouts. There's yes, I still firmly sit in the camp of there's nothing better than sort of a face-to-face meeting. However, you can do all those things that you can do at a networking event, apart from maybe bump into somebody, in the lobby, in the bar, wherever like that. But certainly all the structured networking, breakout meetings, arranging meetings, that can all be done digitally now. So if you're putting on events, you need to be offering that as a solution to people that aren't going to turn up, because if they're not going to turn up, they're not going to turn up. Give them another option to engage with the event, and who knows what impact that can have in the future, like you say.
It's keeping up with the times as well, because I can tell you right now that most of the top events are operating on a hybrid model, and if you're not offering that same value and accessibility, you're going to fall behind. So I think it's definitely an important thing to consider.
Yeah, and I think. Yeah, and there's probably a whole other episode actually, which the more I'm kind of thinking about the live streaming element and what opportunity that presents. So we might probably need to sort of extend that out into another episode, I would imagine.
Double parter.
Yeah, to be continued.
Yeah. Leave you on that cliffhanger.
Yeah. I think moving on from that, it's like there's another sort of a bit that we've kind of touched upon within that, and it's about how. So, as a video company, we get hired by usually the company that puts on the event to create content for that event. A transaction takes place, they tend to pay us for our services, and we exchange that for the videos that we create. However, there's a few companies out there that are doing this really smartly, and they're actually kind of monetizing what we're offering, whether that's through getting the videos sponsored or selling on the videos we're creating to that audience. And I guess I'd just like to chat a little bit about what is possible for clients and why that is so smart to be doing.
It kind of touches on what we referenced in the last episode around exhibitions. We talked about how important it is to sort of really sort of shout about the fact of where you are and what you're exhibiting and what you're offering, and that in itself can be an investment opportunity for the people who are putting on the event, if we're looking at it from that point of view. So if you've got someone that's recording video on site and your exhibitors quite obviously have that need or requirement to have videos produced, there's an opportunity there for them to make money on selling video content to their exhibitors.
Yeah, and it is, in terms of why it's a smart thing to do, like you mentioned, it's a way of them, for the event organisers, actually creating video content is no longer or as much of a cost, but actually as a way of creating revenue streams. Like you touched on about kind of sponsoring videos and things like that, and there's things like that you can do, or you can, depending on the type of event, you could kind of do it as we've done ones where they've done it almost like a TV channel where they have a host interviewing different people within the industry, and the platform that they've built means that if you're on that and you get that video, that reaches a lot of people, and people are willing to pay to have those types of videos, and it's a really good way of making money from the investment you're making for marketing your event, but then actually turn it into another revenue stream. Yeah,
and potentially generate more money than what you're paying, which you'd be happy if it covered your costs, or even just covered some of your costs, because the video around what you can capture from a content point of view and the highlights, highlight reels, the testimonial content, all of that is valuable stuff in itself. But if you can get a big chunk of that cost paid back, why wouldn't you? And I think that, as you touched on there, that is a really important point. If you've got an editorial arm to your event, or you've got some kind of trade press or some kind of, what is there any kind of announcements you can be doing there? As we mentioned, we've done a few in the past where it's maybe like an editor sat down with, say, a CEO of a business that have got a big announcement to make, and they're doing it at that particular trade press. They may charge that interview out to, say, that particular CEO's company. So yeah, we can do that little announcement for you. We can push it out over our socials. We'll interview you. 5-minute interview, might charge that out, say $1,000. Say if you do 6-7 of them over the course of a couple of days, you've got $7,000 back in your pocket, and that's a real big sort of dent into sort of paying back some of your video costs as well.
Yeah, and there's all sorts you can do with it. Like you could have it like for exhibitors, again depending on the style of event, but you could almost create a packaged kind of white labeled video service with a video production company where for set amount of money you could create certain bits of content for all those exhibitors. Just like you mentioned, Jake, the people there have a need for video content. If you can put together a nice package which offers the exhibitors enough value, you could again get more of the money back from the investment you're making in video, as well as actually making money on it as well, if it's done right and you work out the right deal and kind of package with the video company to do that.
Yeah, it's important to consider as well the value you can add on subscription-based models. Like there's quite a lot of, as you mentioned, Paul, editorial arms within events companies, and you do tend to see quite a lot of sort of like magazines being produced for the events, but obviously that in itself is an opportunity to provide value via video content in a digital format. So there is plenty of opportunities to generate revenue, or at least return on investment.
Yeah, and again, you can even have it, like we touched on kind of those announcement style videos, but you could also kind of live stream some of these things as well. So you could have it, like you say, branded to your event and have, whether it's announcements, partnerships, whatever it is, but you could also live stream some of that content as well, just adding kind of more value to it. And yeah.
There's lots of ways in which you can be using companies like us to basically make money from your events. So think about what you can do differently and chat to your video company, or chat to us if you prefer, because we've got loads of good ways in which you can do that. Yeah. Shameless little plug. So moving on from that, again, it kind of touches on what you can do differently. It kind of touches on what we were speaking about then, and that's around what you can do differently at these events, and what are, if you're, because a lot of things that we do regular events everyone does. What is there any other kind of things out there that people could be considering that they should be doing slightly different?
I think there is a real possibility, especially nowadays with kind of the internet speeds and how quickly data can be transferred. It's quite possible that you can get your content out as the event is happening. If you're having a week-long event, you could be capturing video content on the first day, and the day after, or even on the same day, you can have little social shorts or little interviews and bits of content that are live almost at the event. And I think that in itself just adds an extra dynamic to how you are sort of presenting the event. So especially on sort of social media, people who aren't there, people are seeing things that are going on at the time, and it's almost like just adding to that hype and excitement that this is going on, these things are happening, and as well for people who are there at the event, sort of seeing that come out as they're there. I think that sort of just reaffirms to them in their minds that this is a worthwhile event, and they're also listening to other sort of opinions and ideas that people are sharing within the space.
Yeah, and looking at, like we touched on, like the teaser videos in terms of to kind of promote the event, like what can you do differently that's going to make you stand out? Like you can do all sorts with them. Like I've forgotten the event now, but there was a really good one that I saw where rather than just promoting and showing shots of previous events and kind of save the day, they actually shot it more like a TV ad and had a presenter, and it was quite funny, kind of took the piss out of kind of your standard event promo videos. And I just thought that was a really good way, and we'll put a link somewhere after this of it. It's just a really...
You said that last time and didn't put a link.
Did I?
So
sorry.
Stop over-promising to our viewers.
Paul will put a link in. But that, when I watched it, I was like, that's a really interesting way of doing it. Rather than just showing what happened last year, can you think of something or work with the company to help you think of a different way of promoting the event other than what most other people are doing?
It's just doing something different, like even using it, as we touched on before, using video to generate revenue, money into your business. That's doing something different. It's just thinking outside the box, and how can you make the most of the company you've got there to do the filming, to do something different and make you stand out, and speak to your video company. You know, they'll have loads of ideas of things they can do, and give them a bit of creative license, because you know, you could just be quite surprised what they come up with.
Yeah, and the other thing as well in terms of doing things a little bit differently is obviously you'll have your own video crew there to get the content you need, but more than likely there'll be exhibitors who have their own people there who they use, and it's what can you do as the event company to make it even easier for other people to promote your event. So whether that's creating like a video assets package that you may have, so that when other people are creating videos at your event, you can kind of keep it on brand and things like that, and make it really simple for people to promote your event for you.
Offer the agency that you're using as a resource to your exhibitors. You know, we've got a video company. If you want anything doing, just let us know. And you know, it just takes a little bit of work off their desk in terms of having to find someone that fits the bill for them.
Yeah. No, that's kind of segues nicely onto the final point, really, which is all around sort of making the most of the people in the room, but whether that's the film crew or who's physically in that room from an attendee exhibitor perspective. And we touched on this briefly in last week's episode on the exhibition front, but how important is it to maximise who those people are in the room and what value you get from them?
Yeah, it's hugely important. We kind of mentioned at the start of this in terms of how to promote your event, and actually it's really key what you capture at the event itself. And we touched on kind of like the value that your event adds. So it's really crucial that you're finding the right people who can talk about that value at the event and at the right kind of seniority level or right job role to kind of do that. Like, you've got a big opportunity with the right people in the right room. It's like, how do you maximise that?
A perfect example for me, for some of the work we did last year, say City Fibre as an example, we shot all their partner events across the country. There's probably 3 or 4 of them, and it was our kind of idea initially is, well, if you've got all your partners there, why don't we capture testimonial content from them? So we captured probably 4 or 5 little mini sort of testimonials at each event, just for them to use as testimonials, kind of just on the social media channels or wherever. But that in reality probably saved them tens of thousands of pounds across the spectrum of what they got, because they ended up getting 15, 20 short little video testimonials for maybe just a slightly extra sort of cost within the edit, but the film crew were already there. It was just about with planning effectively and scheduling it in and thinking outside the box.
You've got to remember as well, like these sort of senior figures, and especially if they are a company that you work with overseas, you know, they spend a lot of money to come and attend these events. Are they likely to just be up for spending that much to come over to you to get to do a testimonial or a case study? Probably not. But they're in the room there, they're ready to sort of create content with you. So it's really sort of maximising having, as you say, Joe, those types of people at your disposal for a few days.
So obviously you've got kind of like the highlight reel, but then you do need that maybe a little bit more in depth from individual people who have been at the event to really go into detail as to why they've got value from that event and why they go every year, why they return.
Either, you know, as you mentioned, Paul, about the partners being at the event. Yes, they could have said how good the event was, but they were also talking about the service they've received in general. So you can literally cover so many bases just by capturing interview content, perhaps a bit of B-roll, talk about loads of different things, and then you've just got a bank of content there that you can then sort of divide up into the specific areas in which you need to address.
Definitely, and we love a good bank of content, don't we? That is something we are always pushing. And on that note, I think we've kind of covered all the sort of main points we were wanting to get across today. So what I'll finish on, as we always do with every episode, is just to cover off what those top sort of 7 tips have been about how to utilise video and maximise video for your upcoming conference or event. So number 1 is to create a teaser video. Create intrigue and make sure that your clients are getting the dates saved in the diary. Number 2, share highlight reels and video testimonials from previous events. Build that hype and focus on the value. Number 3, capture content at the event. Content is crucial. Make sure you're capturing it all, and it gives you potential opportunities post-event to either add value or to generate more revenue. Number 4, consider live streaming. The events world has changed forever, so make sure you're offering that as an option. Number 5, use video content to generate revenue. As we've touched on, there's various ways in which you can do that, so explore that as an option. Number 6, do something different. Think outside the box and think about other ways in which you can do and utilize video that other companies aren't. And finally, number 7, make the most of the people in the room. You've got everybody there in one room, maximize that investment and maximize that return on the investment. And that's it again, as episode number 7 draws to a close, the magic number 7. So thanks, chaps, for joining me.
No, thank you, Paul. Been a pleasure.
Pleasure's been all mine, and thanks to you cutters for listening and watching today. We thank you. If you've liked the show, again, as always, don't forget to like it, give it a rate, give it a subscribe, click on the bell, give us a follow, tell everyone about it. And we look forward to seeing you at next week's episode.